Fagan, Ariana Rosas, and Erica Soderstrom. Senior producer Alex Schroeder. Our supervising senior producer is Meredith Gerritsen-Morby. In Los Angeles, I'm David Brancaccio. We're from APM, American Public Media.
AEG presents The Crooner and the Cowboy, Leon Bridges with guest Charlie Crockett. The Texan singer-songwriter brings his retro-modern soul sound to the St. Augustine Amphitheater on Sunday, September 14th, 2025. Tickets available at theamp.com. The North Florida TPO is committed to shaping our transportation future. We're focused on planning, funding, clean fuels, and new technologies for a vibrant, connected community. Learn more at northfloridatpo.com. Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com.
This is WJCT News 89.9 Jacksonville. Up next, national and local news from NPR and the WJCT News team.
NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The U.S. Supreme Court says the Trump administration may continue using federal agents for immigration sweeps in Los Angeles. As Steve Futterman reports, city officials say the legal battle is not over.
L.A. Mayor Karen Bass attacked the ruling.
This is simply un-American.
The city of Los Angeles was a party to the lawsuit. Bass pointed out this is not a full ruling based on the merits of the case, and the battle goes on.
We will bring justice to this issue, to our community.
Immigration advocates who filed the lawsuit admit the Supreme Court ruling is a major setback. Rebecca Brown is an attorney with public counsel.
Essentially, the Supreme Court gave a green light to continue the raids across Southern California that are based on racial profiling.
And she advises people to document any actions that they believe are a violation of their rights. For NPR News, I'm Steve Futterman in Los Angeles.
The family of media titan Rupert Murdoch has reached a deal on who will control his empire and wealth after he dies. That includes Fox News, The Wall Street Journal, and other media outlets. NPR's David Folkenflik reports control will pass to one of Murdoch's sons.
His desired heir was his older of the two sons, Lachlan Murdoch, somebody really cast in his own image, looks a lot like Rupert Murdoch, has some of the bravado and certainly definitely the ideological leanings. But he had sort of pitched his two boys against each other in competition throughout their entire adult life, and really ignored people like Prudence Murdoch, his eldest child, who really didn't have the same interest, and Elizabeth Murdoch, a media executive of some real renown and accomplishment because they were female.
NPR's David Folkenflik reporting. Authorities in Charlotte, North Carolina are investigating the fatal stabbing of a woman aboard a light rail train. As Nick Delacanal of member station WFAE reports, the victim was a Ukrainian refugee.
The stabbing took place August 22nd, but has gained national attention after the release of surveillance video. It shows 23-year-old Irina Zarutska boarding a train and watching her phone as the attacker, seated behind her, suddenly stands up and stabs her from behind. Police have charged a 34-year-old man with a long criminal record. Mayor Vi Lyles is calling the attack, quote, a tragic failure by the courts, and says the city will hire more security, step up fare enforcement, and increase police patrols. The case has become a political flashpoint, with some Republicans and the White House blaming Democrats and city leaders. For NPR News, I'm Nick Delacanal in Charlotte.
The Israeli military has told all Palestinians in Gaza City to leave. Israel plans to expand its military offensive in the city. It says it's targeting Hamas fighters. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinian civilians will be forced to move again. There is no safe area to go in Gaza. You're listening to NPR. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says at least 20 civilians have been killed in a Russian bombing attack today. The bomb hit a village in eastern Ukraine. Zelensky says the victims were older people who had gathered to receive pensions. He's demanding a strong reaction to Russia's attack. With great fanfare, Ethiopia has inaugurated its controversial mega dam on the Blue Nile River today. It's the biggest hydroelectric dam in Africa, but it's divided the region and even caught the attention of President Trump. Kate Bartlett reports.
The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has a capacity of 74 billion cubic meters, was 40 years in the making, and cost $5 billion. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed hopes the dam, which will double Ethiopia's energy production, will transform the country's economy. But neighboring Egypt sees the dam on a tributary of the Nile River as a disaster and has tried to block it for years. Egypt is worried it will result in water shortages. Trump claimed recently the US government had mostly paid for the dam, after angering Ethiopia in his first term by suggesting Egypt would blow it up. For NPR News, I'm Kate Bartlett in Johannesburg.
A U.S. firm based in Missouri has signed a huge deal with Pakistan that is worth $500 million. The company, U.S. Strategic Metals, will be able to mine in Pakistan for critical minerals. That includes gold, copper, rare earths, and other resources. However, a lot of those minerals are located in a rural province. Separatists who live there oppose the extraction of the minerals. This is NPR.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Pew Charitable Trusts, telling stories behind data and trends that shape our world today through its podcast, After the Fact. Learn more at pewtrusts.org/afterthefact.
Schindler, and this is First Coast Connect. Today, a statewide effort to tap the brakes on a troubling trend. We talked to the architects of a new local effort to make e-wheel devices safer for riders, motorists, and pedestrians. Later, the innovative sounds of the Jacksonville Symphony's new assistant conductor, and after that, a local classical trio explores the music of Downton Abbey. But first, doctors at Wolfson Children's Hospitals reported a 222% one-year increase in injuries related to so-called micromobility devices, including e-bikes and e-scooters. And based on what they're seeing this year, that number is expected to double again. Here to discuss the growing hazard of e-wheels and efforts to rein it in, I am joined by Adam Brown, Deputy Chief of the University of North Florida Police Department. Good morning, Good morning, Adam Brown.
Good morning.
I'm going to call you doctor, but I know that you're just a deputy chief for today.
Adam's good.
All right, Adam. Talia Fuste.
Yep. Talia
I'm doing
Fuste.
it all right. All right. Transportation planner with the North Florida Transportation Planning Organization. Talia, thanks for being here.
Yep. Excited to be here.
All right. We're also joined by Rebecca Melvin, Trauma, Injury Prevention, and Outreach Coordinator at UF Health Jacksonville. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Rebecca, I'm going to start with you because you spoke at a press event last week on this new initiative. Goal is reducing the number of accidents involving micromobility devices. You have been in the world of trauma response for a while now, though. Describe what it is that you're seeing. Tell us a little bit about how people in the world of trauma care and response began realizing that something had changed.
So we've always had people come in with bike-related accidents. This is Florida. The weather's beautiful almost the entire year, so people are out and about doing their things. Once COVID hit, a lot of people bought more bikes. Bike sales, actually, I read somewhere, they rivaled Christmas time sales during that time because people could at least be outside in a safe environment. And it was encouraged. At about this time also, we started seeing e-bike prices starting to drop a bit. So e-bikes have been around for a long time. Over in Europe, they've used e-bikes for a while. They have much more of a history of it than we do because their infrastructure is kind of made a bit more for it. We are not as bike friendly, especially here in Jacksonville, as other areas of the country. So when we see accidents, it's because there is an interaction between someone on micromobility, so e-bike, e-scooter, bicycle, scooter, skateboard, whatever it might be, in a car, because our roads are not necessarily as friendly as they need to be.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, the price on these devices definitely took a bit more of a dip. More people started using them, which is good. We have more people out in the community, out and about. But I don't think anybody actually looked into what they were getting into. So some of the stuff that we're seeing is very young riders on a device that could go, 15, 20, 25, 28 miles an hour with almost a click of a button with zero knowledge of how the road actually works. So that's terrifying.
Yeah. And the result is that you're seeing injuries of a different nature. Describe to us what kind of typical bicycle injuries you were accustomed to seeing and how these are of a different order of magnitude.
So on a regular person riding a bike, not the bicyclists that are used to long distance rides down A1A and stuff, we usually see isolated orthopedic injuries where someone fell, broke a wrist, broke an ankle, maybe head injuries if they hit their head on something. If it's a bike versus a car, those are terrible. In general, we are very squishy. Cars are not. We don't win. You're not going to win that race. When you add a motor to that, your energy is going a whole lot faster. So somebody who hits a stationary object going 10 to 15 miles an hour on a regular bike, which is still fast, versus someone who's hitting it at 28 plus miles an hour, those are very significant injuries. So the things that we're seeing that are different, we've always seen head injuries, but we're seeing actual like skull fractures and facial fractures, which we wouldn't typically see on a regular bike. The orthopedic injuries we're seeing, it's now isolated to a wrist. I feel like when I was a kid, that was like, a badge of honor. I fell off my bike and broke my wrist.
Right.
Skateboarding, I broke my wrist. Like that's what you did. We're seeing multiple bone fractures. We've seen pelvic fractures, of intra-abdominal injuries, chest injuries, punctured lungs due to these kind of accidents. All of this leads to increased hospitalization. So someone who on a regular traditional bike or regular, man-powered scooter that cannot get to these great speeds very quickly, these people are staying in the hospital, then potentially going to rehab. You're looking at like weeks, months, potentially years of recovery for accidents that we just hadn't really seen before. And this is not just a Jacksonville thing. I have colleagues all over the nation in injury prevention, and this is a national injury issue. It's not something that we see in all areas of the city either. Like there's pockets of areas that actually have more of an incidence of e-bike use and e-scooter use in other areas. This is a big issue. We've seen a lot of publicity in St. Johns County with children on these bikes. It's an everybody issue. Like if you're on the road riding, if you're walking on a sidewalk, like you're going to encounter individuals riding some form of micromobility. It's how individuals act when they encounter something like, there's suddenly a pedestrian on the sidewalk and you're going 28 miles an hour and you're not knowledgeable enough to know how to actually navigate that person. So we're also seeing pedestrian injuries due to micromobility, where the person riding the device doesn't get hurt, but the pedestrian kind of jumps out of the way, which I think UNF has had some issues with as well. So it's not just the person riding the device, it's also the other people on the road and on the sidewalk that are being impacted by
Yeah,
it.
and so, Deputy Chief Adam Brown, what are you seeing at UNF? What kind of concerns or complaints are you hearing? And why did UNF want to be kind of the launching pad for this local initiative to raise awareness about e-device safety?
Well, at UNF, we've always had a lot of bicycles, skateboards, wheels, things like that the students are riding, because just the core campus, it lends itself to, you got to get from one side to the other, so you don't want to just always walk. You want to save time. And like I said, we've always seen the scooters and the bicycles, but now we're seeing the e versions of those, and we're seeing a pretty good increase in them. Every day around campus, I see both. I see the e-bikes and I see the e-scooters. Some students are even riding them onto campus from off campus, so they're coming down sidewalks and roadways, and it's a big concern of ours. Because on campus, you have a lot of pedestrian traffic, and we got to share the road, we got to share the sidewalks, and share the common areas of campus between those mobility devices and the pedestrians. Especially in core campus, when you're close up to the buildings, a lot of the sidewalks, you've got a heavy pedestrian concentration, and then you've got a skateboard or even a motorized skateboard or an e-bike or an e-scooter coming through there. There's there's a chance that you're going to have an injury. You're going to have something that you don't want to have. So we're just always trying to keep our campus safe. UPD is very dedicated to keeping a safe campus, and we like to get out in front of things. We like to be proactive, not reactive, and that's what we're doing today.
And you've always been kind of fighting this when it comes to the covered walkways. There's signs there, no bikes and no skateboards. And so that's not a new thing. But it's the motor that makes these more of a concern, more of a hazard.
Correct. And as you said, we've been doing this for a while. We have an initiative. It's called Stroll It, Don't Roll It, and which means when you're going across the crosswalks, push your device across. Don't ride at full speed across. Just yesterday on campus, I had an e-scooter come right out in front of me. And luckily I'm paying attention when I go through there, but not everyone is paying attention. I keep my head on a swivel for that reason. I want to make sure that I keep the people safe as I'm driving through. But yes, we've always had that problem. We receive complaints from people about the skateboards and the scooters and things coming through there in the heavy pedestrian areas. And the difference is with the e-versions, they're coming through a lot faster.
Yeah.
And just people, there's no malicious intent, but I think people aren't fully aware of the danger that these things can pose.
Talia, let's talk a little bit about the different kinds of e-bikes that are out there in particular, because there's different classes of them and they have different properties. So tell us just briefly, if you will, what most of the bikes are, how they differ, and what speeds they go.
Yeah, for sure. So we're looking at 3 different classes of e-bikes at the moment, and we're going to look at class 1. That's going to be an e-bike that goes up to 20 miles per hour, but it is only going to be pedal assist. So there's going to be no throttle in there. There's no button getting you up. You have to pedal it if you want to get above 10 miles per hour per se, like your normal bike. And then there's going to jump up to class 2. That's going to have a throttle on there that will assist you to get to that 20 miles per hour and can unfortunately go 20 miles per hour if you're not pedaling it. And then there's going to be the class 3 bike that I think we see the most problems with, that goes up to 28 miles per hour, and it has a throttle on there that you can go up to 28 without pedaling. So it can become a bit problematic if we're having children per se on these bikes that are going 28 miles per hour when a normal bicycle might go 10 to 12 miles per hour. So it can get a bit tricky there.
At the press conference last week on this topic, the spokesperson from AAA a couple of times talked about people going speeds of 20, 30, 40, sometimes 60 miles an hour. So you're talking about bikes that max out at 28. What is going on with these other much faster bikes?
Unfortunately, there are some off-market bicycles that can be rigged up to go faster, or even some of these e-scooters really are going at plus 30 miles per hour, which if you really think about that, that's basically electric motorcycle per se is what they're talking about this now. But I don't think anybody who's pedaling on something should be going more than 28 miles per hour at this moment. So it can become very dangerous very quickly.
So those may or may not be street legal, but they certainly are out there. We're seeing people ride them, and they're, don't necessarily have things on them that we would consider, whether it's bells to let people know that they're coming through. Some of this is preventable stuff when it comes to accidents. How much of this has to do with just age of, the cyclist experience? How many of these concerns surround young people, and how many are more just, everyday garden variety accidents?
Yeah, I think a lot of these accidents just really have to do with the speed that we're going at, and the fact that people are pulling out in front of cars very at erratic speeds. But I think that everyone gets on this bike and it's really exciting when you can go faster. And why would I not go up to that speed? However, there's a lot of responsibility when you're going faster to how fast can I brake? Where should I be riding this bicycle? Should I be riding in the road with cars? Should I go super fast so I can keep up with those cars? So I think when you add the element of maybe your youth in there, why would I not go that fast? It's exciting.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I haven't seen a lot of conversation about, but I'm curious, Rebecca, is people wearing headphones. It seems like that's something that is almost a universal, whether it's pedestrians or people riding some kind of device. How does that impair their ability to navigate roadways or to anticipate hazards?
So I think the old thing is, someone can't chew gum and walk on a sidewalk, right? Our brains are really not made for doing multiple things at the same time. So if I have my phone out and I'm attempting to walk, all of my concentration is actually looking at my phone. My brain will actually cut down my peripheral vision because my brain is saying, this is most important. We're going to override everything else. Think of the last time you're going somewhere and you're trying to find an address. Most people turn down the radio. Like you're not, that's not doing anything. I'm looking for something, but why do I turn it down? Because I need to concentrate all of my mental processes into seeing something. So when you add speed You add somebody who, regardless of age, if I have the ability to go fast, I'm going to go fast. And now I'm going to put music on. You're not going to hear cars. You're not going to hear other pedestrians on the road. Even if there's a rescue unit or a police vehicle coming by, generally speaking, it's within like 300 feet that you actually start hearing those sirens. It's a really short amount of space. It's not much, it's not great. Um, and most people, when they're doing these kind of things, if someone comes up behind them, what are they going to do? You're going to startle, you're going to jerk your hands, and that's where people start laying down these bikes or these scooters or the one wheels. Some of those one wheels go up to like 50 and 60 miles an hour. A one wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, so we've been talking largely about bikes, but the scooters are a big thing as well. And I want to just ask about the fact of the rental availability of these. You know, downtown Jacksonville has them, but a lot of cities now do. And bikes, e-bikes that you can go and but how does that impact safety when somebody is, using an app to check out a device that perhaps they've never ridden before or are in a city or a space that they've never been to before?
I think it adds an element of danger there because maybe you're not familiar with the device. I was telling a story before. I was in San Diego and I rented one of those scooters, and I'm not as young as I used to be, but I was pretty clumsy on that thing and embarrassed my kids because I was trying to figure that thing out. And then my wife and I were just in Vancouver before, and they had tons of places where you could rent bicycles. And we saw some interesting stuff there. People that look like they barely knew how to ride a bicycle, and they're on one that goes close to 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, and they're in a place that is unfamiliar to them. They may have different rules of the road. So in terms of the regulations that are currently in place, they are basically, Talia, they're, resemble in most places what rules bicycles have currently, but that might be changing.
Yeah, I think right now the state is kind of giving the power back to the local municipalities when it comes to setting laws for what the ages are for these vehicles and for these e-bikes or e-scooters or where you might ride them. And at the moment, we're seeing that a lot of municipalities are looking at limiting the speeds on your sidewalks or limiting what can be on the sidewalk. So let's say right now in Jacksonville, a scooter can't be on the sidewalk if it's going 15 miles per hour, which are what a lot of these scooters do go. But they would like them in the road if you want to go 15 miles per hour. But if we're looking at an e-bike, we can only be on the sidewalk right now if it's going to be going 10 miles per hour in a lot of areas, and they don't want them in high crowded areas. Because I think at the end of the day, a lot of these vehicles, we need them to be in the safest place possible for everyone. We want these e-bikes and these e-scooters to be able to ride in a safe capacity and for their purpose, to get further places, further distances in the shorter periods of time that they want to do it in. So I think that protective facilities, maybe that are off-road, are the best options for these. But if you are going to be on the sidewalk with any of these, you need to be yielding to pedestrians.
If you're just joining us, we are talking about a new initiative to improve bike safety and e-device safety around the First Coast. And if you'd like to join the conversation, you can give us a call. 904-549-2937 is the number to join us on air, or you can email us at firstcoastconnect@wjct.org. You can also reach out on social media on X at FCC On Air or Facebook or Instagram. So specifically, Florida has been a hard place sometimes lately to create rules that are specific to a municipality. Home rule, it's often this battle about, what local governments can implement versus what the state is going to allow. But there is a change on that front. July 1, a new law took effect that allows individual municipalities to pass some stricter rules, including who can ride these, what ages can ride these, how fast they can go, and add rules, Rebecca, that might be on top of just the general bicycle guidelines that are in place. What would you advise if you could sort of be the creator of this new legislation? I mean, from a trauma expert standpoint, what do you think would make a difference?
So I'm a mom. I have two kids, and they, do everything they can to see the world through their eyes and be adventurous and learn, which means they take risk. So in my house, in my family, we will not be getting my children e-bikes or e-scooters. We just won't, because they don't have the maturity. They don't have the recognition of like the way traffic flows. They don't understand, as much as I tell my 8-year-old why we stop at a stop sign. She sees it as, well, it's a stop sign. We stop and then we go, not understanding that no, there's other dangers beyond that. There's reasons why we stop. We have to look for traffic and whatnot. Um, as a parent, I'm not comfortable with someone who's not licensed riding something without protection. A helmet is some protection, but in honesty, the rest of your body is not protected with the ability to go up to 28 miles per hour. There are other states that have limited what age. They have restrictions, licensing restrictions on the class of e-bike and whether or not someone could buy it. I think that if you're in an area where there's rentals, there are other cities that the rental scooters are not legally allowed to be rented to anybody under the age of 16.
So, do you think that's the appropriate cutoff?
I mean, I think 16 in the state of Florida, you at least have to be 16 to be able to operate a vehicle on your own. So you at least had to have taken a test at that point. So as a parent, I live out at the beaches. I see young children, on these things. There's just a lot of risk for someone who is socially immature to be on something that goes so quickly. But this isn't just a kid's problem. I mean, adults also ride these, dangerously as well. I think societally, we just have not done the research, as people say, before purchasing what you need to purchase, to know if it's street legal, because you might buy something that's not. I went to UNF and I saw e-bikes without pedals. Those are not legal in the state of Florida. They're not. They have to have pedals. So before you're making those decisions for you or your family, if your kid can't walk in a straight line on a sidewalk, they probably shouldn't have something that allows them to ride 20 miles an hour.
We've got a call from John on the South Side. Good morning, John. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for the topic, and I certainly support increased regulations on e-bikes for safety. I've got a friend who's going into surgery today for a broken shoulder from an accident from one. But I'm wondering, you had mentioned with regard to the regulations and the capacity of local municipalities to initiate their own regulations. I wonder if that's the case considering the last legislative session, because in the instance like with the food trucks in service stations, it was proposed and passed by Carlucci. He found that they can't enforce that because it's stricter than the state regulation. So I wonder if down the line that's going to become an issue, even as municipalities are possibly passing more strict regulations, if they're going to find out that they're going to get challenged, and then they're not going to be able to do it because of this state takeover of home regulation, of home rule. And thank you.
John, thank you for your comment. I mean, it's my understanding, Adam, that this bill that the governor signed and took effect July 1 basically allows local governments to establish a minimum age for operating these vehicles, to require them to carry some sort of ID when they're riding them, and to offer training on the safe operation of e-bikes. But I don't know how much farther it goes in terms of requiring, gear, for instance, helmets, limits on speeds on sidewalks. Those things have been implemented by some local governments. Atlantic Beach has a 10 mile per hour speed limit. Neptune Beach has a 15 mile per hour speed limit. So there have been some local efforts in the local beaches communities to implement some of those regulations. But I guess to John's question, do you think that those laws can withstand, additional scrutiny if they're challenged?
I really have no way of knowing that. I believe they could, and for UNF's campus, we will fall in line with what Duval County and the state of Florida enacts. That's usually the way that we go. The way Duval goes, we'll enact the same thing on our campus.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. We've got a call from Eric on the South Side. Good morning, Eric. Go ahead.
Good morning, Ann. Important topic. Recently was out of UNF, and I had to avoid the foot-powered skateboarders doing 10, 15 miles an hour flying around corners, and I thought, oh, my, I don't want to be one of the 40,000 people who are who die from fall injuries every year in America. And if UNF is proactive regarding this issue, I sure didn't see it when I was out there. It makes me think I need to wear my bicycle helmet when I'm walking around out there. And secondly, automobile drivers need to be very cautious about pulling out over sidewalks without looking. You know, a sidewalk is a pathway for all kinds of vehicles, especially today with all the motorized vehicles. And I'm very cautious. I look left and right before I pull out on a sidewalk. I don't need any calls from Morgan & Morgan. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Eric. I know, Adam, that you've said that you've gotten complaints and that there is a heavy presence of these types of vehicles and devices on campus, but you've been pretty fortunate so far in terms of any actual incidents. Is that right?
Correct. In the past year, I pulled the stats, and in the past year, we've had one incident that resulted in injury from someone who was on a scooter, and it didn't involve anyone else, and it was operator error, to the best of my knowledge. But I don't want to take away from the caller's comments. I agree. There's a lot of these devices on campus. We have a lot of people walking. That's why when I say we're being proactive, we are being proactive. We get out there. We're trying to educate. Right now, we're in the phase of we do deployments every day. When we see violations, we stop the violator, we educate them, we can issue them a warning citation or give a verbal warning. We do that frequently, and we're just trying to get the word out. And while I'm on this topic, I'd also like to say, I want the education to go not only to the people on the devices, but also on the pedestrians out there, because our pedestrians are walking around. A lot of them have the headphones on. They're not paying attention to what's going on around them. And I agree, they should be able to walk in safety, but I think it's good to always have some type of awareness of what's happening around you.
Sure.
So not only do I want the people on these devices to pay attention, I'd like to have our drivers on campus, because UNF's campus is a cut through where we have a lot of people that have nothing to do with the campus. They're coming through, but also, the pedestrians, I want everyone to be aware and to really pay attention when they're out there.
Talia, it's interesting because there's some cities, places, and sometimes on college campuses, but just other cities in general, where bikes have long been given some preference. And so they have dedicated lanes, and people are very accustomed to the fact that if you step into a bike lane, you could get hit. And it is up to you to make sure that you're looking both ways. It's almost as if, places like that might have a greater awareness. Motorists, pedestrians are already looking out for bicycles because they've been given the right of way in some places. And Jacksonville has not been that place.
Yes, I think that we're all learning how to share the space right now, in Jacksonville specifically. Even when you're on the bicycle on a shared use path, which is a larger sidewalk here, people all think I have the right of way, like you're saying. The pedestrian thinks I don't have to move out of the way for this bicycle. But the case is we need to learn how to share the space until we have the facilities where we can separate from each other. And I think that Jacksonville is doing a great job at right now creating a driver safety course to look at how can bicyclists, how can new drivers learn how to interact with each other at the same time. And I think there's a number of steps we can take to get there, and it's educating our younger communities on where do you walk, how do you cross a crosswalk, where can you ride your bike, like we've been talking about right now. But overall, how can we be outside and be together in a safe way? And I think that everyone has the right to be on a safe street. And I think we'll get there slowly, but we need infrastructure, we need education, and we just need to be aware of everyone that's on the roadway at the same time.
Yeah, I do, before we end it, Rebecca, talk about helmets, because we know, first of all, that helmet use overall is declining. Regular bikes, e-devices, whatever. But one thing that you brought up the other day, which I think is important for people to understand, is that regular bicycle helmets don't cut it necessarily when we're talking about the speeds that you can travel on an e-bike. And they also don't last forever. Can you just talk a little bit about, a regular bike helmet, whether you need to be shopping for something else, and what do you need to look for when you have one that you've owned for a while?
Absolutely. So you're correct. So bike helmets are made of foam and plastic, so they degrade over time. They also are rated for an impact, not multiple impacts, but an impact. So once someone does fall, they hit their head. that helmet is kind of null and void. We don't really have a way of kind of looking into it to making sure that the integrity of the foam is still there. So you're really taking a risk using it again and again if you have had a fall. A regular traditional bike helmet, the ones that you buy at bike stores and Walmart, they're all certified helmets. They all pass the same certification, so to speak, and they're all rated up to 20 miles an hour. That's for impact. So if you're on a device that goes greater than 20 miles an hour, while it will protect your skull somewhat, it is not going to offer the same amount of protection for someone that would be on a traditional bike or a traditional scooter. So what is recommended is an NTA 8776 helmet. That's a Dutch rating. It's not an American rating. Over in Europe, again, they've had a history with e-bikes for much longer than we have. So internationally, it's known as a very highly rated helmet. Those are impact tested up to 28 miles an hour. So in the state of Florida, a class 3 e-bike is not supposed to go greater than 28 miles an hour. So if you're on a device that somebody has modified to go faster than that, or you're on something that goes well over that 28 miles an hour, that is not going to be as effective either at protecting you. Will it stop you from getting a traumatic brain injury? Probably not. It's going to displace some energy. It will protect your actual skull, which is what we want to see because we're seeing, again, skull fractures, facial fractures. They do fit lower on the head. So really, that's your best bet at protection. High visibility clothing is also very important because you want other motorists and other pedestrians to be able to see you on the road as well.
Well, it is an important topic. It's one that I know that we'll continue to talk about, but thank you all for what you're doing. Talia Fusta, thank you for being here. She works for the North Florida TPO, which is a First Coast Connect underwriter, but they are like any other guest on this program and didn't have anything to do with our program. Rebecca Melvin, she's a trauma, injury prevention, and outreach coordinator at UF Health Jacksonville, and Adam Brown, Deputy Chief of the Police Department at the University of North Florida. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. All right. Up next, we're going to be talking to the Jacksonville Symphony as they welcome a new assistant conductor. Welcome back. A new season of the Jacksonville Symphony gets rolling with a new assistant conductor this year. Philly native and musical virtuoso Nazir McFadden is known for pushing the boundaries of 21st century ensemble conducting. He joins us now to talk about it. Good morning, Nazir.
Good morning.
We are also joined by longtime musical director for the Jacksonville Symphony, Courtney Lewis. Welcome back, Courtney.
Thank you, Anne. It's great to see you.
It is great to see you as well. So maybe let's begin with you giving us a little introduction to Nazir, how he caught your eye, how he was chosen for this role.
Well, when we have an assistant conductor audition, we cast our net wide and try and get as many people as possible. And then we choose videos of people we like. And then they come and about 10 of them conduct the orchestra. And this was a very easy audition to make the decision because Nazir was miles ahead. Conducting is hard when you're under pressure. And if you think about the most important thing a conductor has to do, it's to set the speed of the music. That's actually quite difficult when your adrenaline is pumping. And somebody who's calm under pressure is instantly going to stand out. And I remember particularly the strength of Nazir's rhythm was so powerful that the orchestra relaxed and trusted him. And here we are.
Yeah. And that's important, I guess, to, you've got to get the buy-in of your orchestra. You've also got to, sort of present for an audience. Nazir, just tell us a little bit about how you got into music in the first place, because it sounds like your passion for conducting dates back to an age when few people were doing much beyond watching cartoons.
Yeah, so very early on, um, I was introduced to a different style of conducting. I grew up in the church, and I had, family members in the church band and in the chorus, and so I was at rehearsals every week. And one Sunday morning, before the service, so very early, um, I was sitting in rehearsal, and the band leader, in the orchestra we say conductor, but in church it's the band leader, you know, was waving his arms, and I thought, what is he doing? And what is this great sound? And I said, I want to be a conductor one day. I want to be just like you. And he didn't say anything other than, one day you'll be great. And from that moment on, I knew I was going to be great. I was going to be a leader. And it just happened to work out to be a conductor.
And before you were even trained or really even a practicing musician, you were sort of configuring your own wands to wave around and to sort of, further this idea that this was going to be your destiny.
Yes, so I used to break plastic clothes hangers, and I used to wave my arms around, not knowing what I was doing, but with my headphones, and I knew that I could connect to the music in a way that I couldn't quite do from just sitting still or just playing an instrument. So, my mom had to pay for a lot of clothes hangers, but I think it worked out.
So you say you didn't know what you were doing. What are you doing? For people who don't understand this job, and you're standing up there, you are waving your arms, you're holding these little wands, but like what is in your hands? What are you controlling? What are you communicating to your performers?
I would maybe shy away from controlling or really doing anything. I think some of the best conductors, like Courtney said, are the ones who are most relaxed on the podium, and it kind of flows naturally. And it's a form of communication without saying anything. So maybe in quotations, I could say I'm in control of the tempo, or maybe the expression, or the sound. If anything, I think a conductor is there to inspire or to guide the musicians, the very capable musicians, to play or perform in a certain way. So if we want to narrow it down to the technical terms, in my right hand, I'm controlling the rhythm. In my left hand, I'm controlling the expression, but I like to push it further and say my face and my body is controlling the atmosphere.
Yeah. And Courtney, I mean, obviously the conductor is the focus of so much during a performance like this. We watch the players, we look at them, especially when they're doing something, a solo or something, but you're the focus of so much. And so when you're bringing someone aboard like Nazir, what advice do you have for them when they're in, I mean, I know he's avoiding the word control, but when you're in control of so much of the audience experience?
Well, I think something that is important to realize is that the physicality of the conductor is inspiring the musicians, but it's also an emotional guide for the audience. Because as you say, the musicians often are so busy taking care of playing all the notes, they don't necessarily look like the music at any point, which is no fault of their own. They've got to play all the notes. They've got a lot to do. And the physicality and the emotional expression of a conductor can help an audience, particularly one that is maybe hearing the music for the first time, to trust their own emotional response. So often I'll get somebody will come up and say, I've never heard this piece before, but it made me feel such and such. And they are seeking validation that that's an okay response. And it always is. People are always right. But somehow seeing the conductor's emotional energy and mood can be a guide for the audience as well.
Yeah. And so do you choose pieces with Nazir? Do you kind of let him look over what's on the agenda this season and say, like, this appeals to me? How do you decide which pieces he's going to be performing, what he should tackle?
So there are two parts to the job. There's conducting particular concerts, so some symphony in 60, some young people, some community concerts. And a huge part of the job is also covering for other conductors, so assisting me or other guest conductors when we're conducting, because what we hear from the podium is not exactly the same as what the audience hears in the hall. And it's really important that you have somebody who's got a set of ears that you trust to tell you, oh, in fact, such and such is too loud, or this didn't come across the way I think you meant it to, or you should think about this. So in that way, it's a really important partnership, because I don't have time to run back into the hall all the time to listen to what I'm hearing, and
Yeah.
it's surprisingly different. So it's those two things, but it's a very important ambassadorial role for the symphony.
Yeah.
And I'm particularly happy to be having somebody come and join us with so much experience in that already. And we're looking forward to a whole range of concerts that Nazir will be conducting, and it'll broaden as time goes on as well.
Sure. And this symphony has really worked on, expanding its youth footprint, also expanding its inclusivity. And I would guess that Nazir brings that. I mean, his background, he is very young. I think you're 25.
I just turned 25.
Happy 25. So, obviously very youthful. And you said he's going to be doing some of the youth work for the symphony.
Mhm. So when we have young people come into the concert hall from schools, those concerts are presented by assistant conductors.
Yeah. And so, Nazir, you're coming to Jacksonville by way of Detroit. You're originally from Philly. What do you know about Jacksonville? What appeals to you about coming to Jacksonville in particular? I mean, you've played, we should say, all over the place, Baltimore, Boston. You've done performances around the country.
Yeah, so the great thing about Jacksonville is that it's in a sort of renaissance period, I would say. The city is really opening up, and it's welcoming new and exciting faces and experiences and opinions. So I feel very welcomed already in the first 3 weeks of me being in the city, and from the outside looking in. For me, I knew Jacksonville was going to be a great place to be because of the warm weather and the openness to making music around the city, or the art scene in the city is so great. And I think the people of Jacksonville are so warm and so excited about new ideas, and I'm excited to be this new person bringing in new ideas.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you're getting a good reception in the city. This is a place that you'll be for a period of time. I guess I'm curious what it is that you think the audience will take away from seeing you and watching you perform alongside the orchestra.
I am a conductor who doesn't like to do things the traditional way, whether it be making music in the traditional or most common way, or some of my programming ideas. I always like to push the boundaries.
Can you think of an example?
Yeah, so something like how I explain a piece of music. Oftentimes assistant conductors will give pre-concert lectures. A moment where the assistant conductor will talk about the program that they're going to hear. Something that I love to do is to get away from the lecture idea and have a conversation about music, because I find that patrons and audience members just want to be included in the music as well as learn something. So that's something that I find to be very different.
And so you try to engage them in more of a back and forth?
Whether it be from excerpts from the music, or having conversations with the musicians or the composers, or going through my score, just anything, I think, to bring people along to the concert experience.
So, Courtney, we know that there is the traditional community concert that kicks off this season. That's September 12th at 7:30. What can people expect from that, and what are you looking forward to most this season?
Well, the community concert is kind of a little sample of everything that's going to happen in the various programs that we have in the Pops and the Classical series. I'm really excited about the opening night that we have on September 25th and 26th, Friday and Saturday. That begins with a new piece by Jamaican-American composer Joel Thompson called To See the Sky. One of the most exciting pieces I've heard recently. I heard it with the New York Phil at Vail 2 years ago, and immediately said, who is this guy? We've got to commission him. Let's play this piece. That also features the Copeland Clarinet Concerto with our principal clarinetist Giovanni Bertoni, a soloist, and Prokofiev Fifth Symphony. A great celebratory, bright, colorful piece. So at this point of the year, I haven't seen the musicians for weeks. I haven't seen the audience for weeks. I haven't been in the hall for ages. So I can't wait to get back to work and to open with such a colorful program.
It's sort of like back to school. Well, congratulations on the assistant conductor position, Nazir McFadden. It's great to see you. Courtney Lewis, thank you so much for being here. Have a great season.
Thank you.
All right, up next, a chance to dress up to celebrate Downton Abbey.
Life South Community Blood Centers, providing blood and patient services to the local hospitals, serving patients in this community. Donating blood with Life South helps save lives. More at lifesouth.org to find a blood drive near you. AEG presents The Crooner and the Cowboy, Leon Bridges with guest Charlie Crockett. The Texan singer-songwriter brings his retro-modern soul sound to the St. Augustine Amphitheater on Sunday, September 14th, 2025. Tickets available at theamp.com.
Want to stay on top of what's happening on the First Coast on your schedule? WJCT News Now delivers the Morning Report every weekday covering big local stories, plus health news made simple, behind-the-scenes reporting, and community stories all as podcasts you can play anytime. You'll also get a newsletter with new and popular podcast recommendations. Help keep local public media strong. Start your free trial at wjct.org/newsnow.
We're literally like right in the fire, essentially, and it is very, very hot.
River Selby was a hotshot, an elite wildland firefighter.
You kind of have to dissociate from your body to be able to even tolerate the job because it is so intense.
Selby takes us into the burn zone to understand a hotshot's work and life as wildfires get bigger and more dangerous every year. That's on the next On Point.
Today at 11 on WJCT News 89.9.
President Trump has repeatedly tested the limits of the law, including by trying to end birthright citizenship and enacting sweeping tariffs without congressional approval. Hundreds of lawsuits have been filed against his administration in response. How challenges to Trump's presidency are playing out in court. That's next time on 1A.
Today, starting at 10 on WJCT News 89.9.
Welcome back. Well, you may well recognize that theme music. It is the song from Downton Abbey, a historical drama that is enormously popular, probably the most popular show in PBS history. There's a movie of it, installment coming out this weekend. And ahead of that, there's a performance of Downton Abbey in concert by the Kinney Trio. Here to tell us about it is Scott Watkins of the Kinney Trio. Scott, thank you for being here. Welcome back.
Good morning, Ann.
So, this is a big weekend coming up for fans of Downton Abbey because there is the kind of goodbye to the franchise film. Right. It's called Downton Abbey, the grand finale. Mm-hmm. But this is not the first time you guys have celebrated Downton Abbey. Tell us a little bit about the history of this performance.
We developed this program about 5 years ago, and of all the programs that when the trio gets asked to go give a concert somewhere, they always ask, oh, can you still do that Downton program? Are you still doing the Downton? So it's very popular. This will be about our 8th or 9th time playing it. We've been in St. Augustine, Live Oak, Lake City. We played it a couple times in Jacksonville. So this will be Thursday night at 7 p.m. at the Friday Musicale. And it's a beautiful venue for such a thing. We're really looking forward to it.
And so that music we heard coming in was the Kinney Trio performing the music from Downton Abbey.
That's right.
But this is more than just a concert. This really is sort of a participatory celebration. You ask the audience to come in costume. Tell us a little bit about how you get the audience to join you in celebrating the show.
We play music from the TV series, of course, and from the first two feature films, and we also play some Strauss waltzes, like Morning Papers, and I think there's a Strauss polka that we play in there, and then we've got 2 World War I songs that we play, and we ask the audience to sing along with us in those 2. One is If I Were the Only Girl in the World, and the other one I can't remember.
I think it's Let Me Call You Sweetheart.
Let Me Call You Sweetheart. Yeah. Sometimes
which is a classic of that era.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And sometimes if we go to a town that has a good barbershop quartet, we will invite the barbershop quartet to join us in singing Let Me Call You Sweetheart. Oh. It's a fabulous thing. And then the audience members, they can't help themselves but dress up in costume. They get their picture taken with us at the end because we're also in Downton costume. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's great fun.
And so I guess this is not just the music that speaks to you. You must be kind of a Downton Abbey fan. Is that true?
We are Downton Abbey fans. All 3 of us. We love the show. We love the period costumes, the old cars, the home, the castle, of course. I mean, it's just such a heartwarming story, and it just allows people to escape the everyday grind and, go to an era that maybe was a little bit simpler living.
Yeah.
So,
Tell us, you're a pianist, but tell us about your other performers. Who's playing what?
yeah, Marguerite Richardson is my wife. She also plays violin in the show, and Shannon Lockwood is our cellist. And we all play in the Jacksonville Symphony when we can. And
And 50 years of combined musical experience?
yes, between the three of us, I guess it's true. When you total up the years that we've been playing, and all three of us in public. So, yeah.
Yeah, and so this, as you said, it's at the Friday Musicale. That's in Riverside on Oak Street. There's an opportunity for photos, but it's also kind of a meet and greet after the show. Is that-
Sure, absolutely. We'd love to meet the audience. We always love meeting the audiences because they've always got some story about how they came to love Downton Abbey and how
Mhm.
they got their costume put together. So we love hearing about all
For
that.
people who aren't converts, I mean, what is it about the show or the movies that is so appealing?
I don't know. I think it's the powerful storytelling of the cast. I think it's the impeccable attention to detail for the costumes, the
Mhm.
old classic cars from the 19 teens and 20s. I mean, and then of course the music is fabulous. John Lunn is a Scottish composer who put this music together, and he's just absolutely brilliant. He really captured the era.
He does the theme. How much of the other music is he responsible for? Is it basically everything except sort of the classics and the waltzes?
Yes, exactly. He created all the original theme music and all the music that attends all the scenes and the action and everything. But he didn't. Yeah, he did not obviously write the Strauss waltzes or anything like that.
Sure. And so a big weekend, and will you be going to the film when it comes
I've
out?
already got my tickets.
All right.
I'm going on the 17th of September.
All right, a diehard fan. Well, the event is Downton Abbey in concert. It's September 11th at 7 p.m. Tickets are available through Friday Music Hall. Scott Watkins, thank you so much for coming on again. I appreciate seeing you.
Thank you, Ann.
All right. Thank you for listening. That's our program. If you have comments or suggestions, you can send either to First Coast Connect at WJCT.org. And if you missed anything today, you can catch our rebroadcast at 8 o'clock tonight or find
Connect is provided by Baptist Health and the North Florida TPO.
Baptist Health is a proud supporter of First Coast Connect. Baptist Health, committed to building a healthier community for all of us. More info at 202-4YOU or baptistjacks.com. The North Florida TPO is dedicated to transportation planning, funding, clean fuels, and new technologies for a vibrant, resilient, and connected region. More information available at northfloridatpo.com. USF Safety Florida, committed to reducing work-related illnesses, injuries, and work